Hey guys, welcome to Volume 6, virtual episode number 6 of the Moptown Rarities up here at the Whale Lounge. Our illustrious guests this week are Pam and Jamie Hubbard, dear close friends of mine from Lobo of Sparrows Point. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much
for having us.
Stopping by. I tell and I go back to what we said off camera. Basically, this is us talking over beers, and I feel like this kind of rings most true out of all the episodes so far. So I'm super excited to share some cool beers with you guys. So welcome. I'm just going to just take one up and cheers, guys. Y'all can start.
Cheers.
In any direction. We're going to start with the upright. So that is a tart.
Good
Saison.
morning.
That's a tart saison.
That's good.
It tastes like a pie.
It does, yeah. It kind of has like a green apple phase to it.
Yeah, like caramel. Well, without the caramel, but candy apple.
Right. So, let's rewind 7 or 8 years ago. Was it 2013? Jamie, I met you through the now ever-changed One Eye Mice.
That is correct.
And we didn't know much about each other, but I'm glad that we had the opportunity to just kind of hang out and kind of actually really bond over beers. Way before that, obviously, you got your bar start. Can you briefly walk us through how you got into the beer business or bar business, so to speak?
I mean, the bar business was a long time ago, and really I have to credit a lot of my beer knowledge just when beer was blowing up. I started working at Jack's Bistro over in Canton, and they started with more an international beer menu than anything, and over a couple of years it evolved. So without really trying, they had, for such a small place, a great beer selection, and working there for, over 4 or 5 years, I learned a lot, and I really kind of piqued my interest in it.
Excellent.
How many beers did they have at one point?
We had over 100 beers in one little Lobo beer cooler. I mean, the whole rotation process was crazy, but that was really before a lot of beer became mainstream, and there were so many beer aficionados and things like that, so people didn't know anything on the list, so they would tell me what they liked to drink, and then I would just find something on the list that was comparable to what they like to drink. So that's really kind of where I got my start, and the most I sort of handled and learned about beer since after that sort of the cocktail revolution came around, and we've sort of focused as much on that, but I'd say that's where I learned the most about beer.
Yeah.
Now it seems like it's swinging back around to beer again.
Well, yeah.
Less about cocktails.
It's cocktails, a little less
like
wine.
Beer cocktails.
Yeah, and then wine at a very close third, but still very much in the picture. Pam, how did you fit into?
Honestly, the timing of me getting into beer is meeting him, because I worked in the restaurant industry and I worked at a lot of bars, but it was mainly like corporate places where you're selling Bud Light, Miller Light, maybe a Heineken here and there, and that was pretty much it.
One of two choices.
Yeah.
It was domestic or
I grew up drinking, my dad drank Budweiser and we drank Bud Lights. Like, that was pretty much it. And when I met him is when it worked out that I actually got a job at the Abbey. Oh, because he went to go, so he and I were working together, and then we both left where we were working at Sullivan's, and we were wanting to find new jobs. He went over to the Abbey in Federal Hill, and that's when they had just opened there too. They weren't open for that long.
Yeah.
And so he goes in, applies for a job, and the manager at the time basically was like, "You're qualified, but I got to hire a girl," because it was they had like one girl and all dudes.
Oh, man.
So Jamie calls me and goes, "Drive over to the Abbey right now."
She got hired on the spot.
I got hired. I was like, I just showed up like, "Are you guys hiring?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "Actually." Yeah. And I was like, "Yeah, my new boyfriend just told me to come over here."
You learned a lot about beer.
I walked in and he goes, "What do you know about beer?" And I was like, "Well, I drink, Bud Light," and thought it was real cool to say Michelob Ultra at the time. Like, who knew?
Yeah, that's a date. That tells you how long ago. That was probably 1920 some years ago.
And they had their own separate walk-in just for beer, which is the first time I had ever seen that at any place I've worked. And it was just like
the spotlight of you got food walk-in, you got beer walk-in, and then kind of a wine cellar.
Yeah, hanging out with him, he was making me drink triples and you know, it was really cool. So, and I actually liked them. So that helped me do well at the Abbey and learn all the different beers. But then we also drank a lot on our own too.
Sure. A little independent research, of course. So the three of us working at One Eyed Mike's so many years ago, it was a different beast. It was a focus on neighborhood steps of service and just like 100%. I remember vividly. I'll never forget this, and I will forever appreciate it. There's a guy that came in. He sat down and he ordered a bowl of soup, and I poured him a beer, and I put everything in. And Jamie yanked me up, put me in the kitchen, and he's like, "There's no reason why this guy shouldn't have a placemat." And I was like, "You're right."
I don't remember.
You're right. No, but the reason why I say that is because like I think I was kind of slow on the uptake when I was hired at One Eyed Mike's, and it was one of my favorite in 20 years of bartending and serving and that kind of thing. That'll always stick out. But like it emphasized the importance of service. What do we do to make our own concept and what people love?
I mean, first and foremost, you know, you remember the handbook at One Eye Mike's, and you remember the first thing on that page.
Oh yeah,
it just can't suck.
Yep.
So we built Lobo, you know, with that first and foremost.
We built a handbook. We typed up, and one of the first paragraphs was, we did like a little description of how everyone knows each other, mainly about how Jamie and Mike met working there and what they've moved on to do, a little bit about Chef Dave at the time, and then myself, my background. And then at the end of that, it was talking about our mission statement, and we put in, just like it said at One Eye Mike's, it just can't suck. And that was...
And I remember little things. I mean, if we're talking specifically to One Eye Mike's, you know, because we both worked in a ton of restaurants. But, you know, I remember little, you know, Kurt training me and you know, some of the little things that
I got a kick about hearing about how he was getting hazed.
That
was so, he hid my wallet.
I remember, you know, coat hanger in the shitter, and pardon my French. But, you know, it sounds silly, but if you know that story, then it explains the way that you
essentially
think
about
things.
A guy that came in every day for lunch.
This was Legal Seafoods back in the day when ZD was a bartender.
And so this dude came in in a 3-piece suit from a business office to eat lunch every single day, and he took his noontime, you know, rights, and basically, he's like, I love your place. The food is fantastic. The service is ridiculous, but when I sit down on the toilet, I have nowhere to hang my jacket.
Yeah. So the next morning, ZD came in and with his own drill and hook, put a coat hook in the bathroom stall, you know, and it's just, it seems kind of silly, and if you don't buy into it, but you know, when you go above and beyond and really care about the experience people are having, you know, and that's really where we went.
Super easy to look over if you're in a high volume place, slinging drinks out the window or doing that kind of thing, and you just kind of miss some of the small things. And like I remember quite a few days working at One Eye Mike's where it was a fantastic lunch, a fantastic dinner, and then from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock, you are rolling a golf ball across the bar top. And you're
got real good at that game.
Yeah.
I got real good at that game.
But then at 1:30, that's when everybody filed in because they knew that was the place to go for the last drink of the night until 2 o'clock every night. And it was all industry kids, and that's where you made your money. So like that little like detail like that, I feel like really very well transcended to Lobo.
But what it translated for you and for us working there is that it was the last piece of our night. You know, we all made a lot of decent money there for many years. But also on the flip side of that is the fact that people looked forward, no matter what they were doing all night, to walking over at 1:30 and doing shot in the dark.
Right.
You know, whether it was genuine, wow, this is really nice, or whether they wanted to heckle you and Jimmy standing on top of the cooler. You know, it was
it happened either way.
It was a hook that, you know, stuck with people. And it didn't matter if you were empty for 3 hours.
Yeah. It never ceased to amaze me that we would. And I worked there for such a brief time, and I mainly was just there to hold myself over until we got ready at Lobo and to, you know, do my due diligence and work for Mike and Jamie and
learn the system.
Yeah.
And it never ceased to amaze me that we would be so empty, and then you'd see, and it wouldn't even be like, it wasn't the same people every night. It didn't matter.
You had 5 different crowds that came in from happy hour to dinner to
You had people getting off their job over wherever, running into the door to be there. And I mean, when Mike's did that, it's one of those places that made a bunch of little different, clubs for people to belong at any certain time of day, whether it was the morning happy hour crowd or the actual happy hour crowd or the people that just went there for dinner all the time or the shot in the dark people.
And I think a big part of it, just to generalize, is, One Eye Mike's, when we worked there, and when Mike was around, was a huge part of the neighborhood. It was a huge part of the community. And that is one thing that we set out to do. We just wanted to be a part of the neighborhood.
There was
like a
really
neighborhood
nothing
bar,
around as far as there was there's a coffee shop across the street, and then
you got El Mary's up the street, which has been there forever.
A good 4 blocks away, but as far as running,
I wouldn't say 4 blocks.
It's like Washington Street, right? It's like 3, 4 blocks up.
I think it filled a void right there.
Right. But what I'm saying is it's not like where you go from door to door and you're kind of bebopping around. And
it is a little bit of a destination.
That's a destination. Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So and people are just oh, they walk in and they see the wall.
I think honestly, a lot of what we had and what people really enjoyed, it was our immediate neighbors, but we were kind of on the quiet side.
Yes.
So people, people were looking to kind of get away from the hustle and bustle of Thames Street and Broadway.
Right.
Not Friday and Saturday night prime time, but during the week we were kind of that quiet hideaway spot. We were a date spot. I mean, to be honest with you, it was a good place to bring a date. I mean, Tinder Tuesday was great.
Tinder Tuesday was. I would say Lobo was definitely.
That was a date spot for sure. Yeah.
We even got into, I think it was Baltimore Magazine. They did an article of the best. It might have been Baltimore Sun, but the best date spots around. And we were. I mean, we had our and we call them Tinder. I don't know what they were using. But we definitely had our regulars that were you knew which ones wanted you to engage them and be oh, hey, Bill, what's up? Nice to see you.
Pam is the best. Pam is the best wingman that you can have. I'm telling you, behind the bar, she's the best.
So I did that, and then I talked a lot, to Laura about that, and she bought right in. And you knew if a lot of the guys and girls too would come in and they didn't want you to acknowledge them, we'd pretend like we had never seen them before.
Right.
Not in a sketchy way, but just treat them like any other guest. And then we had the guys who wanted the whole oh, they come here all the time. They walk back to the kitchen, say what's up to me, and oh, would you like your usual bottle of Pinot Grigio or whatever, and start you with your charcuterie board, and the girls would be oh, he knows everybody here.
I've never had Pinot Grigio in my life. But yes, exactly.
But that plays into the service aspect. It was one of the many things that you could trust coming to us because we're gonna play the part and do what it is that needs to get done.
Right. I moved on to the Crooked Stave. It is pretty awesome.
Wait. Okay.
Oh, I hadn't tried the idiot.
Oh, I went the wrong way.
No, you don't have to. Just try.
I did the Raccoon Lodge and Pumpkin Smash, and that's a punch in the face.
This guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, I'm gonna do this one. Idiom.
Yeah. Idiom is a little bit drier for a fruit sour, I feel like, but
it's very dry.
It's a sour that smells like
lactobacillus. Does that mean it's made with lactose? Is it a milk?
No, it's basically a bacteria that is used to hurry up and ferment the beer, kind of in a wild way. Just kind of
There are a lot of words here that I don't know.
Yeah, me neither.
You're supposed to tell us.
Drinking all this beer is going to help us learn.
And honestly, I only know half of these breweries, man. I mean, this is a crazy selection.
It is amazing how many, even just in Maryland, but all over. And, we drive down Central, and there's that old...
Somebody needs to open a brewery, Central and Lombard.
It was like the...
Right, it's got a tree growing out the top of it.
Yes, dude.
Well, no, it's next to Stevenson University, which is also, I think, abandoned. But it's right there on the corner, and it's got the big wall. I'm telling you, a brewery
Every
would be
time we drive
right
past it, somebody's got to open that here.
That'd be really good.
There you go.
Is so like
Get on
Central is Handlebar? Are they still around?
I think that
They
they're
are.
still open right now.
They're getting beat up pretty bad because they're developing the lot across the street from them. So I actually, we're at Lobo every day, even though we're not open at this point. And I see Mark sitting outside every day, and he's just mean mugging the contractors because they don't care. They don't realize that it was already hard for him to be open, and doing what he was doing before this, and now he's in an active construction zone, which is
if he can power through though, when all that stuff is done, and
it'll be a better block.
Be a new hotel there.
I mean, you can survive that. Then you can survive anything.
Somebody's going to buy the Brass Monkey sooner or later.
I mean, it's been empty forever. So many buildings, you're just like, is it worth it? Is it worth the heart attack?
And Bond Street, Bond and Alisana. Doug Atwell is doing the cocktail bar right there, the one that was Caddy Corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's moving that direction.
I think he'll crush it there. He's a great guy.
I think Ekubin going up there really kind of put a stake in the ground.
Oh, yeah. Ekubin, they're amazing.
This kid's so young too, man.
I know.
He's just awesome. He's a great cook. He's happy as hell.
He comes in here all day. Steve comes in here all the time.
I mean, they're a great group.
They're like the happiest, hardest working people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he brings his crew in too. He's like, they're on me. Like he takes care of them. Let's talk about where beer. Just for a second, because we can go on about this. Going back to what we were talking about, like basically a brown bottle indicated like your Miller Lite, your Bud Light, Coors Light. Your domestic or your foreign or your craft beer was your Heineken, Stella,
Amstel Light Corona.
Amstel Light Corona.
That was the late '90s beer lineup.
It was $3 or $4 back in the day. I feel like anytime you went.
And then you would have a Magners or
a
cider, a token cider.
And like and then we're talking probably 25 years ago now. Like the craft beer that kind of defined Baltimore, I feel like was Resurrection. Resurrection.
Yeah.
And you're just like, holy shit. And then like you go there and like this is like the food is phenomenal.
And they've been doing it forever. My sister
they
had
were the OGs, I feel like.
My sister, I think in the Baltimore beer world for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that Resurrection and Ozzy / whatever it is now, Beasley.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are two very good representations of Belgian style beers. And they do the downstairs Bike Messenger stinky cave kind of thing. But my sister had a rehearsal dinner there. It was a 120-person rehearsal dinner upstairs at Brewers Art, and they crushed it.
One of my first dates, and one of my wife and I first dates.
One of the best beers I've ever had in my life was Stillwater Brewers Art Collabo Debutante. That's one of the best beers. That's right in my wheelhouse as far as what I like in a beer.
The triple peppercorn.
The green peppercorn triple Brewers Art is one of my favorite beers. But again, Resurrection and Beasley. I mean, they're just too solid.
They're around the same time that like DeGroen. Like I worked at DeGroen's forever ago. But it's basically a difference between you coming in and ordering a beer and the bartender taking kind of. What's the word? I guess just basically interest in what you're selling. Is like, I can sling you this Miller Lite because I asked you what you wanted, or you can be like, hey, we made this beer, it's fresh.
Try this Marzen.
Try this Marzen or something like that, and boom, there's the craft beer, like boom, essentially.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's basically what happened. So like, Resurrection is I feel like still just like. In every bar you would ever walk into, and that's
so when we opened Lobo, there were no new accounts, right? Because we had it at One Eye Mike's. So up until that, but these guys made us feel special because they were like, you know what, we're going to give you Resurrection and Beasley, and we were through the roof, and then we found out they were giving it to everybody. That's when they went. That's when they went. Mass production.
Felt
all that
special
kind of stuff.
For a minute. Yeah. And from there it's you at least have, I think, any bar, any corner bar or even restaurant, the menu reads your couple domestics, your couple green bottle beers, your Heineken Stellas and stuff like that, and then you have like by the state essentially. Like, Maryland beers.
We kind of set out to say on draft we're just going to keep local beers because. Yep. When Lobo opened 6 years ago, that was right at the height of Baltimore kind of blowing up. Union hadn't expanded yet. my buddy who brews for Peabody, that was really kind of a fledgling kind of thing. Even Full Tilt was, was very new. So, it's tough when we have, 11 taps, and how do you narrow it down?
Right.
And then if you are a beer connoisseur or just a fan of beer, you have your favorites that you can't really break down into categories, and you want to have those,
right.
So we had this like mishmash of all these IPAs because everyone loves IPAs and double IPAs, and the hoppier the better. And then we always pay homage to Natty Bo and PBR, so there's going to be that.
Sure. And then there's the working man's like.
Yeah.
We had Jesse and Peter from Celio's a couple weeks ago, and fantastic menu. We kind of just ate our way like appetizer wise through the
she cooks great food.
Through the cocktail, and we each had a cocktail, and then they had main lunch there. They had a great and then she got dessert, and I was like, I just kind of want a whiskey. And they're like, well, we only have a couple whiskeys, but we have a Sportsman. I was like, what's that? And they're like, oh, it's kind of like your Boilermaker. It's your PBR and a shot of Old Forester. I was like,
there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
That's basically
our version of that was Kentucky Gentleman, but
hey, I'm not picky about that. I love that whole concept of you can practice your wares and get the customer interested and make that sale and have a genuine interest in the food menu, the beer menu, the cocktail program, but then also you sit down and humbly, just drink a shot of whiskey.
I think that's you got to still have the Baltimore aspect to it. You got to still have the things that even the locals want to try and do this, but then even us, after we drink a nice beer or two, we just want Natty Bo.
Yep.
And then I think that's why she's going to crush it over there, even during a pandemic, because she's, I don't know if she's even originally from here, but she's, Baltimore through and through.
She's from Maryland.
Yeah. And her food, you got to have the good food, which she has, but you got to have the, well-rounded program, have something for everybody. I can't wait to go
Shout
there.
out to Mums over in Federal Hill. If you order Natty Bo can and a shot of Vititus, it's like $8. You order a number one, which is a Natty Bo can and a shot of Vititus, it's $4. You just got to order by number one.
You have to know to say number one.
I distinctly remember you walk in there and there's no other place that smells like this place right here.
That's good. The 30-pound cat sitting on the stairs.
And I was just like, I will never forget the smell.
Yeah.
I was like, oh God, I don't know if I like it or if I love it or if I hate it.
I feel like I knew when I had grown into adulthood a little bit more when it turned from
when
let's
did
go
that
to
happen?
Mom. Sort of. When it was let's go to Mom's and everyone.
They used to let you smoke after Baltimore banned smoking. As long as they would put a sign on the door that said private event, and everyone in there would just be chain smoking.
So you'd be excited to go in and still have cigarettes and drink whatever, and then when it turned to oh no, I can't go to Mom's. Nope, can't do it. And then it was wait, I think I'm growing.
You just care about how you feel.
Right.
Lithuanian moonshine will leave its mark.
Oh man, it just had a distinct smell, and you're just like, oh man, this. All right, let's do it again. and that was like a haven where everybody went after work, and I remember all the Italian restaurants on Albemarle. When I worked at the Growins, when Ciao Bella and Amici's would close,
Back when Little Italy was booming.
I drove there through there the other day, and I was just like,
it's sad.
Yeah, I mean,
let me ask you a question. You're asking us how we got into beer. So I was told to hire you from Shuckers. You and one or two other people. It was clear that I had no choice in the matter, and we were just bringing you on because people knew you. Knew your work ethic and knew that you had a following coming from Shuckers, working there for 10 years. But you weren't. I mean, you were interested in beer at that point. But what made you come down this path?
I tell you what. I always had an interest in can we get something else other than we have Miller Lite, Coors Light, and Bud Light on tap, and I'm just like, can we do something else? Can we try New Belgian Fat Tire? Can we try?
That's a great beer.
Can we try this other lager, this and that?
You remember one of my biggest accomplishments was pulling Yingling from draft on one of my mics and putting Brooklyn Lager. I pissed a lot of people off.
Yeah,
but Brooklyn Lager is a great beer.
It's a fantastic malty lager. I get shit out of that. I had my bachelor party at Brooklyn Brewery. That was a great spot, man. I mean. and they just care so much about it. So like that went on, and I was just like, you know, I didn't know much about like the Cicerone program. I was talking to Nate about it, and he's like, well, yeah, I'm studying to be a sommelier. I was like, well, I know what that is, obviously. And he's like, yeah, the book's hard, and like he's just like butted into.
I mean, it's no joke learning as much about beer as the knowledge that you have.
No, and like I had nothing. He's like, well, you know, there's like a sommelier beer. And I was like, what's it called? He's like Cicerone. I was like, no, that's weird. But then like a couple months later, I looked into it and I was like, this is the hardest exam I've ever taken. And like it was no bullshit. It was a 3-year process, and that was like probably one of the best moments. But to be in charge, like put whatever you feel like will sell on tap, and I was like, that this is awesome.
Yeah,
let's get to it. Like so, and you just match. It's basically like making food. Like, what do you think people would like? You know, and that's basically just kind of pairing. So I really grew an interest in that, and like it's a dream to work at Max's, you know, afterwards, and just kind of soak up whatever, you know, beer knowledge I can. So
right.
Are there different levels to Cicerone, like there are with sommelier?
Yeah. So I'm a level 2. It goes all the way up to Master Cicerone, which is basically like basically their job is to like be judges and like tasters.
So Judy at Checker Spot,
yes,
we're
the same level.
Okay, and she's one of the only female level 2 Cicerones.
She was one of the first in Maryland. I know that for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, she about a year before I did.
Their beer is awesome, and we love Checker Spot.
So good,
you know?
and they're such good people.
Yep.
And we actually, so he didn't go, but I went with some of the former staff, Mike, Emily, and Laura, and we met there because Julie, who's she's super into beer.
Yeah.
Oh,
she's
cool.
working there. Well, she just started nursing school too, so she's just there part time now. But we went, and they had the whole parking lot, which is normally where they have the tailgates and stuff. But you can pull in your car, you can put your own chairs out. You can hang out.
You can bring a grill down.
Dude, I've seen pictures on Instagram. I was like, I'm all about that.
Yeah, we're gonna hit that one.
Yeah,
they
said that they're actually doing really well right now, even with everything going on, because it's the perfect spot to go to just stay away.
They're adapting, and that's working out well for them. My friends at Full Tilt are doing really well through like the Beer Me app, and they're, I don't say this on camera, but like they're hardly using like their distributor. They're driving their beer to houses.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
And they're doing pre-sales, and that's what you have to do. Honestly,
yeah.
I mean,
and that's the kind of thing that's like getting people excited about stuff right now. Like it's not just going to the store. It's like you got to make a thing.
We're about to run out.
Also,
I think it's
Yeah.
I think it's important to recognize that whatever application you're doing, whether it's a food-centric restaurant, whether it's beer, no matter whatever facilities you have, some people are just getting lucky with what they have. Your ability to go outside right
100%.
now. They have the biggest pop-up Checker Spot. I mean, has the biggest pop-up tent because they've got 95, covering the entire thing.
Concrete tent.
Exactly. So pull your pickup truck up, do that whole
man.
thing, and hopefully, I mean, I don't know Nick. He's right up on Bologna in York. I don't know what kind of outside area they have, but a lot of people that have that access to that, they're going to be successful, and more power to them.
I mean, they sat down and like, all right, we got to put some like picnic tables together. They put some pallets together, and they kind of made a partition. Basically, what Max is trying to do with like
this is awesome.
Parklets basically.
Yeah.
I mean, Poppy's down. Look at Poppy's down in Fells Point. They're doing the best they can on the sidewalk, but the new one up in Hammond they bought, the old Dimitri's, they have an entire parking lot there. So,
that's wild.
I mean, and who knew that was going to be such a big part of it? I mean, the parking lot is always valuable, but
that was was one of the first things that was really tough for us because we didn't have outdoor seating before all of this.
Yep.
And then, so we rallied together, and all these amazing people came and donated chairs and tables and umbrellas.
We're also in one of the most dangerous intersections in
it's
Baltimore
awful.
City.
There's a lot going on.
So there's
you're going to get hit by a car.
No
we've had
reason to
people run into our building with their cars
literally.
Before. So the idea of putting someone out in the street to have food and drink just didn't really work.
It's tough, and like I tell you what, some of the delivery trucks on this corner here, I'm like, about 6 feet away from somebody eating tacos and drinking beer.
You were talking about Alomar and Little Italy, Gia's over in Little Italy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely beautiful.
That place.
But they have the luxury of being on a street that no one really drives down.
Yep.
You know, and so
Yep.
you know they
And
have
they have,
the
the
lattice
classic, like,
and
Little
everything,
Italy
you know.
balcony up there where you can go sit.
Like the
Oh,
paint
that place
and
is
everything.
amazing. I gotta try the double Dundalk because I'm from Dundalk. And
You're extra Dundalk.
I am extra Dundalk. And
She's from one of the ship streets. Midship.
Oh gosh.
I was about to say, does that have some sour to it a little bit?
It does. It does. I think I might have mixed that one up.
Wait, is this the double IPA?
That might be the double. I think the idiom and the that's fine. Everybody's fine.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Lactobacillus.
It's delicious either way.
I was missing the lactobacillus on this one.
All of a sudden, the idiom tastes really good. And you're like, oh, it's really dry for itself.
I liked your episode with Spike. That was really good.
Spike was a lot of fun. He's so he was the first one that. So he was the one that hired me for my first restaurant job, and I was a bar back at Austin Grill in 1997.
Austin Grill over at Can Company.
Yep.
Austin
Grill. So it's been gone forever, but like, he's like
he probably crossed paths with Ash without knowing.
Yeah.
Ash worked there. Yeah.
So I worked at one of my first real restaurant jobs was Red Brick Station in White Marsh.
Mm-hmm.
I had always worked at hole in the wall places or whatever, and I worked at Red Brick Station, and they had the everything's right there, and you walk in and you're like, what are they doing here? And I was mostly concerned with the blueberry beer because I was
you put the blueberries.
A girl and 18 years old, and that
I don't know what I was drinking.
21. I was 21.
What position was Spike over at Austin? Was he general manager?
He was a general manager. He hired me, left there, and then I followed him at DeGrowen's. And then I left there and followed him at Zen West, opened up Zen West.
Off of York?
Yep.
Wow.
And that was like 2005, 2006. And then I was working there in Chuckers at the same time. I left Zen West with the Chuckers, and then one of Mike's after that. But he was in my wedding, and he's great people. He's got a lot of knowledge, and he was one of the other ones. He was just like, try this beer. It's not Miller Lite, but it's the same style kind of thing. So that was pretty awesome.
It's so cool to me that they're doing this over there. Like growing up in Dundalk, and I went to Sparrows Point Middle School, and that was my home school too for high school.
Oh, yeah.
So I was all my sisters. We were all supposed to go to Sparrows Point High School. I ended up going to Kenwood for a magnet program, and my sister went to Patapsco for her magnet program, and my youngest sister stayed at Sparrows Point for high school. But growing up and here, all you really knew was Bethlehem Steel.
Yep. That was Sparrows Point, and then
likely somebody was ill or sick or not doing well if they had worked there, or their dad worked there, or grandfather worked there. And to see now everything that's built up over there, it's crazy to me.
It's awesome.
It's
and
awesome.
I don't know if you guys made it to Key yet.
No.
It's a little out of the way, but it is at the end of a industrial park. But I think it brings everything together. You drive across these train tracks, and you have this very simple working man's beers. And
Ray Schisler's a good guy. Yep. He obviously did the tap system here. He did the tap system at Lobo.
Yep.
And his crew has sort of maintained the tap system there for a couple of years. So on top of wanting to support a brewery out of Sparrows Point, he's been nothing but good for us.
Clean our taps because he would usually, but he was amazing. He would come on Saturday mornings, and that's usually when I was there prepping, and I was there by myself in the morning. So he would come in, and I don't know if he's gotten married, but he was talking to us about he did get married.
Oh yeah.
That's exciting.
I see his dad Brian once in a while.
But he was talking to us, before all this happened, about us maybe doing some setting up a tent and doing some snacks and stuff for his wedding.
Yeah, hell yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, let's kind of gear towards step back for a minute and say 2020 was absolutely fucked, and it didn't go the direction.
2019 wasn't all that great.
Yeah. And we're like, all right, well, fuck 2019. We're going into 2020. It's gonna be much better, and then here we are. But
they said no, it's not.
We expected a lot of things, and a lot of things didn't happen, but it opens up the doors to a lot of other things. Can we talk about what is in the pipeline for Lobo?
we're not really sure, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, like we were talking about, certain facilities being more apt to the situation we're dealing with now. Lobo is not really built for that. It's a big open box. So the success that we had was the environment that we created, and we don't have that anymore.
Right.
So unfortunately, after giving it a try with the help of stimulus and everything over the last 6 months, we've had to, sort of swallow the tough pill that it's just not going to work for that model. So fortunately, we do own the building. We're not going anywhere, and we will try to figure out if we can work something out that makes sense. But the reality is, people are not, frequenting the establishments the way that they used to.
Yeah.
In general, a small. It's like a snapshot of everything else. There's a small percentage of people that are doing better than they were before any of this started.
Right.
There's some people that are hanging on, and then there's some people that, in all walks of life and industries, that are just really not able to make it work. The way that it has been working.
Sure.
So, believe me, last thing we ever wanted to do was shut it down. But at the end of the day, even though this is a project of love, and we put our blood, sweat, and tears into it, at the end of the day, it's a business. And at the end of the day, if the numbers don't make sense, then you have to stop what you're doing.
Yeah.
So we love to cook. We've both been in the hospitality industry our entire lives. So we're going to figure it out.
We're fortunate that we can make that decision right now, and quite frankly, if this had happened 6 months earlier and we had the whole spring and summer to look forward to, then maybe we would have kept going. But knowing that fall and winter are going to be not great, and we have a really old building that has no air filtration or ventilation system
whatsoever.
So inviting people inside just isn't a great idea. And we've been not only focused on service, but focused on the well-being of our staff over the years.
Sure.
So just to think about putting them in uncomfortable positions for not
makes
the same money, it's just, it was too much. We're doing now, we definitely took a little bit of a break from service anyway, and we've been working on the building and the apartments. But now we've opened it back up to do some catering and private dining.
That's what I wanted to get to. Yep.
Yeah. So we're, we haven't had a whole lot of action from it yet, but a couple ideas for holiday parties, and that way it's just like one group coming in, because the space is tiny.
Absolutely.
And the kitchen's right there. So if we can have, I've got some catering orders and things where we can go deliver lunch to people. But, people came to Lobo not even really knowing what it is that they wanted. They just wanted to come to us to hang out. And like he said, we've had more than, a few regulars tell us during this whole thing that what we were known for was a place to kind of just hang out, and then you see what you might get.
Right.
And we can't really do that for people right now. So, we're fortunate that we can make the choice to sort of just step back and figure out what to do next. So
safe to say, down but not out.
Yeah. Yeah. It sucks because we miss our people,
Yep.
Yep. We made a lot of really great friends. Same as we,
Yes.
I mean, we married a couple in our restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Like our regulars became our good friends. They'd been together for a long time. I'm pretty sure he was my freshman year chemistry teacher in college.
Oh, I remember you saying that. I was like,
haven't confirmed that.
And they were like the classic, like, great Lobo couple. They would come in, and they didn't just want to come in and say, like, oh, we know the owners, Jamie and Pam. They loved everybody. The front of house staff. They actually
preferred interacting with our staff
rather
more than us. They because honestly, I would be for months and months I was waiting tables, or I was behind the bar, or I was shucking oysters, and they were honestly disappointed when I would wait on them.
Yeah.
The first question out of their mouth is, "Where's Julie?" But that's the thing. Our staff was so great that they developed those relationships.
That's a good thing.
So I was happy to hear that.
Yeah.
And they supported us a lot over these last few months, getting carryout orders. But even so, people. And it's not through any fault of their own, but so many of our regulars over the years, they would send really amazing messages, like, to our Instagram or Facebook or email or whatever. Like, we're thinking of you guys. We're hoping you're doing well and this and that. But then, you can't see everybody because they're being safe and not going out. So,
right.
Which is a good thing. But then it's kind of like, all right, well, maybe this is the best time ever to shut her down.
Right.
Yeah, we're kind of holding out and hoping things take a new direction.
Yeah.
After get winter under our belts and see what's going on. February, March, and
safe to say that the consumer is like the catalyst, and we need you guys more than ever to support local businesses and drink local, spend local.
Yeah.
And I think they understand that if they haven't gone anywhere yet, they know to go to the corner bar and not to the Hard Rock Cafe down in or the
Take a day and go drive out to the brewery.
Yeah, go to the farm brewers. Yeah.
Then come that way. You have like a little event that you made out of it.
Go to Greedy Reeds, not Barnes and Noble.
Exactly. That's a great bookstore too. Let's finish on a positive note. I will start this one off too. Your favorite beer memory, or one of your favorite standout beer memories, and I have a ton actually. I remember I got off of work. I opened up one of Mike's, and I got off at 5, and I sat down. And the wife got off, and we sat down, and she and I were like, "You were behind the bar, and you said, 'Kick this Dos Equis. We'll put the pumpkin beer on tap.'" Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
And I was like, "He's like, kick this. I'll pay for your tab." It was like $2 Dos Equis because we were trying to kick it for like.
It was left over from the 10-year anniversary.
10-year anniversary. It was like, you want something cheap lager on tap so people can like hang out and do whatever. And I was like, "Oh, done and done."
Got you hammered off of Dos Equis.
7.
That's got to be one of the worst. That's got to be one of the worst hangovers you've ever had.
And then I finally like, "Oh, should have kicked it." And then I had this much of the pumpkin beer. And I was like, I gotta take him home. We gotta get pizza apparently, and then we gotta go home.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Did you do the robot?
Yeah,
I think he went from zero to hero so fast that the robot wasn't even visited. I think he didn't. It was one of those times where he stood up off his bar stool and was like, "Whoa!" It's just, dude.
I'll be outside. You guys.
What's your favorite beer story?
Funny, not funny, doesn't have to be.
Well, I mean, mine. I was trying to think of a funny one, but I don't really have a funny one other than I was known for being able to hula hoop while pouring draft beer at Hooters. That was my trading call.
That's fantastic.
And Alex Rodriguez was in to Hooters one night with a nice young woman that he was hanging out with from Baltimore at the time. And I didn't recognize him because although I'm a huge sports fan, when you see people in person, sometimes you're like, he looks like somebody. And then he walks away and somebody goes, that was Alex Rodriguez. And you're like, ooh, whoops. But I was hula hooping and pouring a Miller Lite pitcher. And I remember him being like...
what else would you pour?
But I remember him saying, you should do something else. And I was like, I thought it was a
That's a good memory. He was like...
But I was like talking to people and hula hooping. And I never knew, like over the years I've contemplated, sometimes it's a good memory, sometimes it's a bad, because sometimes I think he's telling me that I should be doing something else because I wasn't doing very well at the time. Other times I'm thinking he was telling me I should like
be
run
a hula
something
hoop
or
board parenting instructor.
But no, honestly, my favorite beer memory is kind of sentimental.
Of course.
And it's funny we mentioned Brewer's Art, but I had actually never been to Brewer's Art, and when he and I were first dating and he got me into drinking beer, and we went down into the basement and we were like hanging out one night, and even though I had lived in the city for so long, I had never done that before. And it was like, I remember texting my sister about like, he took me to the coolest bar in Baltimore, and we sat down in the basement, and he made me try like every little beer, but he was so cool about it and was like ordering everything from the bartender, and we were trying all these different beers.
So hula hooping, pouring Miller Lite, and the stinky bike messenger downstairs bar at Brewer's Art are your two favorite.
Tied for first.
That's quite the spectrum.
I like it. Nice. Well, I'll share our memories since we're looking at this St. Bernardus right here. one of my favorite beer memories is when we started. One of my favorite places to go is Monk's Cafe up in Philadelphia. My sister has lived up in Philly for a while. I'm born and raised in Baltimore. Philly's my favorite city. But Monk's, I will make a day out of taking the train up, eating a meal, and then coming back or whatever. So when we were first hanging out, we went up to Philly to spend a couple of days, and we planned on going to Monk's to have a beer and then go somewhere else for dinner. We were going to hit like a Jose Garcia's place or whatever. We went in. We had mussels because we always had mussels, and their fillet on the menu had a St. Bernardus Ap 12 quad demi-glace on it. So we split that steak, and it was one of the best steaks, one of the best meals I've ever had in my life.
Crazy.
And that's one of the best sauces I've ever had. So
that
would definitely be one of the top beer stores.
And we went into like they have the restaurant, but then you have to like know to walk into the back.
You're just like, oh, this is a cool little bar in the front, and you're just like.
And he was like, no, I got a guy. And we like walked
and
to
you're
the
bopping back and forth in the hallway.
I just got lucky that there were 2 bar stools.
Real quick, I have another one too. Do you remember we would get off and sit down and you're like, what are you doing? I don't know. Not much of a like plan moving forward, but we would think of like drinking games, like in a particular person laughed a particular way. And we made a drinking game out of that. Do you remember that? We had like 3 PBRs in like 2 minutes. I was like, geez, I gotta go. I'm a firm believer in beer bringing people together, and I would love to keep the tradition alive, knowing that one of the finer moments of my life was being accepted as staff at One Eye Mike's. With you at the helm and Pam as well, and that was splitting a case of Brooklyn Black Ops.
Yeah, the Black Ops. Yep.
We would do that. We would do that every year. So to make sure
you still have one.
I got this year's because I can't miss a year.
This year's.
This is you guys.
Oh my!
Thank you all so much for joining us.
Oh come on, you better have one of these in your fridge at home.
We're gonna split it open together at one point.
All right, good. Wow.
But thank you all so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having us.
We have a ton of beer left over. We're going to do it off camera so that we can curse at the sports that are on and, that kind of thing. But if you're running low and you'd like to re-up, please visit shop.maxis.com. Please follow at Lobo Fells Point for your Facebook and your Instagram. Humble Beer Society. This is all together. The reason why I'm doing this thing is people like this. And thank you all so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Cheers.
Cheers.